Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the Professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Woo. Hey guys, Ace here. Man, gonna have to. I know. There we are. So here we are. Episode. What is it? Is it 28? I believe. I don't know. I never remember to look, and then it never. Well, and the really funny thing is, we've talked before how we thought. We thought Nick and Josh were catching up, but they're not, because I listened the other day to the latest episode, and there's still a good 12 behind us or so. So I'm like, hey, all right, we're gonna stay ahead of it. Yeah,
they have way more listeners than us, though.
They do. They need to pass some of those along. You know, we're always passing them along. They need to show us some love.
Right.
You need to show us love, boys.
We should have them back on and then just be like, you know.
We need to.
Be like, I would love to have them back on anyway. I don't know if you know this about them. I went to one of their, like, not last year, but the year before, I went to their Christmas party. They are both very huge Christmas people. Movie
interesting.
People. Yeah. So I think have them on here for something for Christmas.
I definitely can see that. Let's make it happen. We can. I'm even okay with having them on before then and kind of talking about things, especially with some possible movie coming up. But yeah, let's get them on. Most definitely.
Yeah, I think that we should have them on to talk about their Christmas movies. We had Brittany and Spoo on last week with Keith to talk about horror movies, and what better two people to talk about horror movies with than Brittany and Spoo? But yeah,
agreed.
Keith brings like so many things. Keith and I get along really well. We have like very similar tastes. But yeah, no, I will talk to those nerd informants over there and see if they can pop in and talk about some Christmas movies with us sometime.
That sounds like a game plan. I agree. We're going to talk tonight about some of the things, the streaming that we're watching and what we're enjoying. Taking a little step back from the top 5 list for us and talking just a little more of a chill. Plus last week's episode, if you guys missed it, you need to check it out. But really be prepared, because it was almost 3 hours long, because we did have great guests that love their horror movies.
Well, there's 5 of us talking. We each did a top 5 horror movie, and that's from all time. Our taste varied so much. We did have some crossover, but not as much as I thought we were going to. We had like 4 or 5 movies out of the 25 movies we talked about that had crossover. So not a lot. So we had a lot of movies to talk about. And when you get passionate people in about movies, especially when you get the horror fanatics like Spoo and Brittany, who are huge horror fanatics, they start talking about stuff and they just start dropping names and dates and stuff like that. It's kind of you step back and you just listen and you learn. And no, it was really entertaining. It was almost 3 hours long though.
It was. But you should check it out when you've got 3 hours to burn, sitting in traffic, working out, whatever you're doing. So, and we wanted tonight to be kind of a relaxed night.
Yeah. Professor said something about maybe editing it down to 3 different things. We could do that too. You know that, like, send it when I get my computer back. Send us these things, because I know they're saved on yours, and send them, and maybe we can convince the Scallywag to like edit some things for us and do like short episodes that we can put in there. Yeah. So maybe something
we can do that. I'm cool with that. Yeah, most definitely. So guys, we're gonna talk some chill stuff tonight and go from there. And
Netflix and chill.
But yeah, we'll. Yeah, what's the chill? We're gonna Netflix and chill. We're gonna Amazon Prime and chill. We're gonna Disney Plus and chill, Hulu and chill. So yeah, we've got some things to talk about. Not really set as lists, but more of what are we enjoying? What are we talking about? If you guys are watching, and I see we have one watcher, and hopefully more people will show up. feel free to comment. And if if you're feeling passionate about this, send us a message and we'll bring you in here with us. That's always possible. So we're always glad to have guests. Maybe not. We don't want to always have a 3-hour episode, but an extra guest, that's okay. We can handle that. So, all right. So let's get started. So what are you watching? What are you streaming and enjoying and chilling to?
So what am I currently watching? Well, like Friday.
Or what have you watched recently? What have you?
Well, let's go into what I'm currently watching, because Friday dropped something I was very, very excited about. This house was very excited about it as well. And that was Mandalorian season 2, episode 1. That dropped. We had gone back and rewatched season 1, of course, as you should. That show is just amazing, and I watched the little videos that they have about how they make it happen with the giant movie screen instead of a green screen, which I just think is amazing. They have a giant movie screen and they have some of the sets built, but all the rest of the sets are actually on this movie screen, and the actors get to actually see what they're interacting with. And I think that's beautiful. I, of course, love the child. Do not call him Baby Yoda in front of me. It bothers me. At work, we sell them at work. We sell a bunch of we have a child fixture where we have nothing but Mandalorian stuff on it. And we sell it at work, and everybody's like, "Would you have Baby Yoda?" And I'm like, "No, we have the child." But I really liked the episode.
I'm sorry, I cannot sell this to you unless you refer to it as the child.
The child,
there will be no selling it to you at all.
Unless you're like a kid and you call it a Baby Yoda, I will allow that. But if you're an adult, you call it the child. It's not Yoda. That's not a species. That's a person. But yeah.
Once you hit 5 years old, then you're cut off. You don't get to buy it if you call it Baby Yoda.
I'll let him do it till 10.
Yeah. So I watched this also with my son, which is interesting because it drops on Halloween weekend. And so there's other things we're trying to watch, and you got activities going on, trick or treating, and trying to figure out what level can you do that, not do that. But we did get a chance to watch this, and my son was very pleased. He's a huge Star Wars fan. I've raised him right in that part, and we both really enjoyed the episode. I loved that we came back around to the Sand People.
I do,
and that was awesome.
I love them. I love that you got to see them a little bit more as yes, they're savages, and yes, they invade and they do all this stuff, but you actually got to see their community a little bit more in this, and you don't get to see that a lot. I always call them the throwaway species, not always, not that just them, but there's always in franchises, there's the species that you know a little bit about, but not a lot about. And they're one of them from Star Wars, and this gave you a little bit more insight to them. I love the desert scenes. It's very much, Star Wars was a galactic Western. That's what it is. It's this space opera Western. The Mandalorian takes that to a level that it should have been taken to, and they even had the sheriff, like in his stolen Boba Fett.
Right.
But no, I loved it.
I think they even call him Marshal, which is interesting because that's more of an Old West term for. And I was explaining that to Logan.
Yeah. Go into the saloon and stuff. It was very much like the OK Corral. I really expected a white herb and I got him. I think the casting was great. I love him. I love Timothy as in this, and I always love him. He's one of those actors that when I see him in something, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's in it. And then I don't remember. I know it sounds bad, but he's one of those guys, that I don't remember as much. But I love when I get to see him. And the child is as cute as ever. This episode didn't showcase the child as much.
Nope.
Like he
Nope.
hid a lot.
Right.
But it didn't showcase it as much, and I actually didn't mind that. Like, I think the story was wonderful. It's written well. The idea of Boba Fett's armor being found, and then you get the glimpse of Boba Fett at the end. If you Google, that actor is cast as Boba Fett, but it's just this kind of mystery that's going to go on, and how they're going to play that out. And I am looking forward to this episode this week. I hate that we have to wait a week, but then when I think about it, that's what we used to have to do growing up.
And then if your parents decided to go somewhere,
you would miss it,
and you missed the episode, you were done, unless they just happened to show reruns, and not everything did back then. So
and usually when it did, if it was something as popular as this, they did, but it wasn't until the spring.
Right.
They would play the season, and then in between, March, when the seasons would end, January to March, depending on which show it was and what network it was. But January to March, the season would end, and then they would play reruns until the summer hit, and then in the summer they had their mini series, which would take over stuff. And so, you just hoped that they played the one that you missed.
Right, because they didn't always play all of them. Yeah, and if it wasn't a popular show, and then you felt bad because you weren't watching, and then you weren't one of the people that was supporting it, and then it ended, and you're like, whatever happened to that show? I always wanted to see that show. And it's interesting, but no, this is different that way. But I enjoy it. I love the spaghetti western feel to it, especially at the beginning. And the whole, they were going to actually have a draw right there in the saloon. They were going to draw on each other.
I know.
And then, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going full on Western here. And then, of course, have to find a way to be able to help each other out. I thought it was beautifully done. Just a great time.
It
So
very much had that Kung Fu. Do you remember the series Kung Fu?
Yes. Yes.
This episode in particular had that feel to it. That 1960s Kung Fu feel to it. I've watched all the old Westerns like Rifleman and Rawhide and stuff. The Kung Fu was one of my favorites because the stories were so, like, they had a balance to them, which Star Wars should always have a balance to it. It should have that, that's the whole point of Star Wars, is that balance. This story was wonderful. And from the fight at the beginning, which was beautifully done, I loved when the child just looks up and is like, and he kicks him away, and he fights and stuff. And it's just, it was just really great. And I if you haven't watched it, I think most people I know have seen season 1 at least. Yep. But if you haven't seen the first episode, watch it. It's I think it's one of my favorites. So
it's a really good episode. Yeah. And you don't really gain too much in the big storytelling in this episode. You get a little bit of where it's starting, but it's not like, but it's kind of a self-sustained episode, but it's great. So it's well worth seeing. It
gives you an insight to how they're going to potentially bring in more Mandalorians, and how they're going to bring in Boba Fett in particular.
Right.
I love that you see what you think is Boba Fett, and then he found this armor. Well, he traded the armor, but he got this armor, and it's Boba Fett's armor, and he just knows that it's the scariest thing to anyone is Boba Fett's armor. And he's been using it to protect the whole thing. So it's a Boba Fett imposter, but he's doing it for the right reasons.
Well, and I loved when he walked in, because I looked at him and said, that doesn't look like a Boba Fett. What in the world? What are we doing here? I'm like,
right, with the red turtleneck underneath.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Boba Fett would wear that.
I don't know. It had me questioning, and then I went, Okay, you got me here. Now, I really do like how they pulled it back to when the second Death Star exploded,
Yes.
and then all of the Imperial troops left Tatooine, and that's when all heck breaks loose, because people forget a lot of times when you got an oppressive empire sitting over the top of you, they're providing law and order, and where they're just
Right.
ripped out, there's no law and order, and so you got to kind of figure out what's going to work.
It's a rebuilding of a whole civilization.
It is.
And the other thing I liked about this episode was that it puts it into the time frame a little bit more. The first season, yes, told us when it was, supposed to be.
Right.
This one kind of puts that into perspective. Like the lady who works on the ships, who holds she's in season 1. She's back. And she talks about the Death Star, like when the second one blew up, and she remembers that, but she does, like, this is a generation ahead, so she was probably a child when this happened. And so, because I'm always like going, the first season I was like, okay, no one knows what, like, this child is, like, he's a species, no one remembers Yoda. Like, how do you not remember Yoda?
Well,
but when you think about it in the years, because you just think of it as a continuation, and it's not. I mean, it is, but it's generations. We wouldn't remember something from our grandparents, and that's kind of what it was. Plus, go ahead.
I was going to say, plus Yoda was just one Jedi, usually stayed in the very core area, and we're talking about the outer areas here that a lot of times didn't see Jedi very often because that wasn't part of it.
And that's the other thing, and Shpu and I were talking about that, is like the fact that the Jedi, anytime you see them interacting in any of the movies, they're interacting with politicians, the council, they're interacting with the people in charge. The only time you see them not is when they're crash landing on places, or or something like that. And then it's just very few people know they're Jedi. They're very secretive. So it's kind of like, she says something, though. She does say, thank the Force. In this episode. So they still have that legend, that idea of something, but they don't understand it because they didn't actually see it. And I just think it was really great. I love where The Mandalorian is going, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I hope it stays around for a while. So
I'm with you 100% on that. I think it's great. It's doing what okay, so a couple things. Did you see where they talked? There was not an announcement, but there was an article out there talking about how the sign language was added to the show with the Tusken Raiders. So basically,
I saw that. I mean, I know I've seen the show, so I see that there's sign language. I didn't see the article, though.
Right. Well, so basically, for The Mandalorian, what they decided was the Tusken Raiders use a type of sign language. So to be able to do that, they brought in people that are deaf and actually have them dressed up as the Tusken Raiders to be able to have authentic hand movements for the sign language. And I thought that was really a grand idea, that there was somebody that goes, hey, why don't we bring in people who are deaf to play these characters so they can actually use the sign language, and then we've got that consistency there.
Right. And then people who are watching this with hearing impairment, or who just know sign language, can understand what they're saying. I don't know sign language. It's one of those languages I would really like to learn. But it, I don't know what they're saying, but it would be really cool probably to see that.
Right.
And everything. That's wonderful. I did not see that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So that was a really cool thing. The other thing that I saw, and I posted this on GeekyKOOL, that there was a Babylon Bee article. Babylon Bee, for those that don't know, is a fake news site that does things in a humorous way, kind of like The Onion and other places. And they posted an article about the FBI breaking a plot for Ryan Johnson to direct an episode of The Mandalorian.
Right.
And I thought that was hysterical because I'm like, okay, that's right on. Because how crazy would that drive fans if you're like, Ryan Johnson's directing this episode? What? How's he going to ruin it?
Let's keep the showrunners who they are, and let's keep that. Like Disney needs to learn from history. History does not have to repeat itself if we learn from it.
Oh, I think they know, but I think that was a very funny poke at the bear sort of thing with that.
Yeah.
And I posted a comment with that the episode would have the child killing the Mandalorian right off and taking his armor and trying to wear it. And then we realize the revelation is that he's Palpatine's son. And then the beginning of the next episode, the Mandalorian wakes up and goes, "What a weird dream," and moves on from it.
Oh, is it bad? I want to watch that now. But only out of humor. Only
right.
Not for the Mandalorian, but makes it stupid. I will watch it.
How it should have ended. We'll pull that up here. Yeah. So anyway, I just had to share that because I thought that was a really funny article, and then I thought I was being a little clever with what the plot could be there. So
you were. That's funny.
So
let's
move along from the Mandalorian, even though we've been loving it, and talk about some other things. So one of the things that I know we both have watched is season 2 of The Boys, which, by the way, if you're watching this, not PG, not okay for kids. No, I mean, if you trust your 5-year-old to watch it, that's your business. I'm not going to judge anything, but you need to be aware what this is.
The Boys is not kid friendly. It is
No.
It is what I think it would be like if we actually had superheroes in the world. I really do. But it is not. It is very graphic in nature, both sexual and violence, to the point that at one point some of the violence made me go, nope. Like I didn't want to watch it.
Right.
Because it's that graphic. But that being said, I loved season 2. I love season 1 more. I do think that season 1 was better written. But I like the character development that has come along with a lot of the characters in season 2.
Right. I agree.
I love the addition of Stormfront. She was a wonderful bad guy to hate. Because she is everything you should hate. I think it was awesome that the ending, the last 2 episodes were mind-boggling. And I'm looking forward to season 3 already. Be a while, but yeah,
it will be a while. Well, the girls pummeling her. What was the second to last episode? That was amazing. So yeah,
that was so good. The thing is Stormfront really is the ultimate bad guy. She's Red Skull meets, Magneto meets, like she thinks she's doing everything for the right purposes,
right?
But she's not.
Right.
But she also enjoys. She's a psychopath. She really, really enjoys torture and killing, and
and mind games.
Oh yeah, big time. You look at the 7, and it's amazing the diversity in just the characters and their drive for doing what they're really doing.
Right.
And I'm just, I'm blown away by it. I love the show. I think the end of it was, I mean, I didn't see that coming until the hearing. And when the hearing was going on, but Shmoo and I were, and I was like, okay, it's got to be somebody in the room. And I just didn't think that it would be Stormfront because she was still at this time trying to get the people to think that she was a good person. So I didn't think it would be Stormfront doing it. And then it was kind of trying to like eliminate who actually survived the hearing. That hearing scene, it was just, I know.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. Literally mind blowing. And it was just so good. And their expressions while they're watching this, because, you know, the boys are watching this.
Right.
On TV, like every other American probably was. And yeah. And
you're like, we've got him now. Oh, man.
And he's walking by and then just boom next to her and boom. And I did like, I found the Scientology thing on this season hilarious. Fresca. Did you read the article about why it's Fresca?
No, I didn't, but I was fascinated by it always being Fresca. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the cult like type of church, you know, who is trying to, you know, get people in, and the Deep becomes basically the Tom Cruise of this cult. And they get him there with Fresca. Every time he gets thirsty, they offer him Fresca. So I wanted to know why. So I Googled it, and I found an article, and it was the showrunners just thought they were like, what can we do to put humor in this? You know, to make it just a little bit funnier. And somebody was like, well, they should drink something, like drinking the Kool-Aid. Like,
right.
But what is the least favorite drink you can think of? What is like the least appealing drink you can think of for this? And Fresca was the one that won. So that's why Fresca. It's literally a callback to drinking the Kool-Aid.
It's a refreshing drink. Oh yeah, that is an interesting show. It's not for the lighthearted. You have to go in and kind of understand. It's basically the Justice League, but what if they were not good people? Or at one point were good people, but life's kind of evolved on that. And yeah.
And that's the thing. Here's what it is. It is, if Brightburn and the Justice League had a baby, and that baby was ran by a corporation in America that wanted profit. That is exactly the basis of the show.
Right.
The superheroes are run by a corporation. They are employed by a corporation. That corporation sets them out to different towns. Like they don't have, and the corporation in this season, you know, we found out the corporation created the superhero. Right. And we knew that they did in the first season, but we really get into like, they realize it in this season. They understand that they were not born special, they were created. And no,
and that was a big thing in the first season, was that we're born this way. God chose us, which is kind of an interesting way to go with that. You know, God chose us to be this way to help people.
Right.
But then they're not really that helpful with people. The whole diving deep into the acceptance of Deep with himself, and that whole thing was really interesting, because I'm like, okay, you kind of can see he's got that whole I'm a bully because I've been bullied and I don't like myself sort of thing. And it's kind of an interesting, it was an interesting take on it. Yeah.
Well, and like I was saying, all of the 7, the original 7, and then you know, the new ones that came in but don't really last very long. And all of the soups all have these characteristics that make you like them in a way or pity them in a way. Even the really bad ones, except Stormfront. She was the one. Right. That's why I said she was the perfect bad guy. Going forward, I think I'm hoping that next year they really tackle the whole the girl who's running for Congress.
Right.
Who, they're gonna she's obviously the new bad guy. But I'm hoping they run into more of the corporation kind of thing, like trying to take down the actual corporation and not just the soups. Now that they realize that the soups, aren't all bad. Like they had some fighting with them and stuff like that. So
right.
that girl's fight scene though, that was
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So the interesting thing is how it ended with Homelander. The very ending, you're like, he's gone off the deep end. He wasn't.
He was already swimming in that deep water anyway.
No, he was. He was.
Like he's under now.
Right. So that's scary because even the most powerful other superheroes are scared of him.
Right. But that's when his son comes in. And we've seen it. We saw his son. That was a heartbreaking scene. That scene made me cry. I knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. You didn't expect it to be that heart-wrenching. It was beautifully acted. And but yeah, when he accidentally kills his mom by trying to protect her. That was
right.
But that shows you that he is going to be the one, like his dad's look, the look on his dad's face, on Homelander's face, when he, realized what kind of had happened.
Right.
And he's connecting the dots. He's a little slow at connecting the dots, but he was connecting the dots. I think that put a little fear in him.
Right.
And so I really do think, it's going to get to that point where it's father versus son, which is like we were talking about Star Wars earlier. It's very much a story that gets told over and over in different ways.
Right. It's true. That's true.
Yeah. What else are you
watching? All right. So what else do we have on the list? Yeah.
So I watched something that you haven't watched on Netflix. It's a limited series. It's called The Queen's Gambit. It's in about, I want to say it starts in like either the late 50s or really early 60s, about a little girl who's orphaned, and she lives in an orphanage, and she goes down to the basement to clean the erasers for school, and she sees the janitor playing chess against himself, and she's like, "Teach me." And he is like, "No." Like, first of all, it's a little girl and he's a janitor, and it's like creepy in the basement. She keeps asking him. Now this is a time, and what I love about this show, it really does. They researched it very well. And it's not a true story, but it's based on real circumstances from multiple people. So they took in experiences, but they made it with a female point of view, which is something that wouldn't have happened in the 1960s with the chess. Especially major world chess tournaments and stuff like that. The whole Bobby Fischer, of the Russians and all of that. A woman would not have been welcome, let alone appreciated and honored the way she was. But she gets up there. She learns chess, and she sees it in a different way. Yes, it's drug induced for the most part, which is just about the orphanage giving children tranquilizers, which they did in the 60s. But it causes her to see, like, she'll lay in bed and she sees the chessboard coming to life from her ceiling. It's done cinematically in such a great color scheme that it really brings to life that 1960s feel. The storyline's great. The writing is superb, and I was like blown away by just the nuances of characters. So I binged it in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, I started it.
I did see the trailer for that.
Yeah, I started it and Shpoo was gone, and then he got home, and I can't remember where he was, but he got home, and I was like going to turn it off because I didn't think it was his type of movie. You know, he's horror and Star Wars and stuff. And he's like, no, I'm doing something else. Just keep watching it. And I was like, okay. And then he got into it. Like episode 3, he got into it, and we watched the rest of it that night. So, but it's really good. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, you should see it or put it on your list. It is a drama.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It has some comedic times in it, but it's more of a drama and a period piece. But,
yeah, that's awesome. That can be very entertaining. So that's awesome. Yeah. And I think we both have said that our challenge is not having anything to watch. It's there's so much content to watch. It's hard to watch everything you want. Yeah. So I want to talk about one that you hadn't seen.
Okay.
So Amazon Prime has one called Hannah, and Hannah's Hanna, and like the straight lines through it. So Hannah basically is La Femme Nikita meets the Black Room for Black Widow. The Black I'm sorry, the Red Room, not the Black Room. The Red Room, which is basically where you're trained to be an assassin, a female assassin. So you can kind of combine both of those things with a government CIA thing added on top of it. So it is a really interesting, well done series. Focuses on one girl, Hannah is her name, and 2 seasons out there. The first season, basically, she is on the run. Her mother, so basically the government has this contract with pregnant mothers who are going to get an abortion.
Okay.
And basically gives them a serum to help their intelligence and do all this other stuff. And yeah, right, exactly. And then basically has a whole line of female girls that they're basically going to raise up and kind of train to be assassins or use whatever they need to. So that's kind of the whole idea. Well, the mom, right after having the baby, the mom decides she wants out. And she convinces one of the guy that recruits her, to try to leave. And basically, in the process, mom gets killed, and they wreck the car, but they're right outside this major forest area. And so the guy who was helping her takes little Hannah and goes and basically lives in isolation in the forest in the mountains for 16 years. They're not able to find him for 16 years. And he's training her how to take care of herself and do all this stuff. It's a really interesting thing because he's doing this because he's concerned for her, but she doesn't always understand it. So then circumstances happen, so she goes on the run, and you end up all over Europe, because this is taking place in Europe, all over in Europe, and in the first season, where she's trying to escape the people chasing her, because they realize it's her, and they're coming after her to bring her back. And then second season, basically you kind of end up back with the group. So there's some things that go on with that. It's a really, and there's a female adult that was kind of felt responsible for Hannah, and so there's this whole interplay. So it's a really interesting, because there's a lot of spy sort of thing within the same agency, trying to figure stuff out, and who's really pulling the strings.
Well,
and then you've got this.
When you train spies that are reluctant, they're going to try to figure out. Yeah.
Right. Well, in the second season, you really focus on, they start training them, and they bring them from being more of a military training into more of, this is your family. And they set up fake families and even have them email their families. and this whole kind of brainwashing of this is your family, this is who you are, learn to know this, to really kind of have that backstory to be able to slide into things. It
Right.
is fascinating, and it was a fun watch. I every episode, and I think there was only 8, maybe 10 episodes in each season, but every episode you're like, oh my gosh, where are we going now? And
Right.
sometimes it was like, that's
love that.
completely different than the last episode, but it takes you right back to it. So it's really well done. I suggest Hannah, especially for that action adventure spy sort of thing, that I love those movies and
Right.
shows. And Hannah's doing it right. A lot of times you get those spy shows, especially that was on regular TV, and you have too many episodes. And so you get
Right.
all these kind of filler
try to-
episodes.
Yeah,
Or
they try to put in. They try to put in action pack, like if it's a long series, they try to put in action pack
right.
every episode. But you're a spy, you wouldn't have an action pack. I know that sounds
Right,
weird,
right,
but you wouldn't.
right.
You would have a lot of time for
Yep.
mental games, not just all
Right,
physical
right.
stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
and this really does have a lot of that. Alias did it really well. I think that was one of the spy series that I've
They
seen.
did.
I loved
They did
Alias.
until they didn't. They did until
Right.
they didn't.
Well, I agree.
Sometimes shows go on too long, and you know that the
Yeah.
writers are like, we don't have any new ideas. What do we do?
Right. The first 3 seasons of Alias were
Oh,
phenomenal.
awesome. Yeah.
So anyway, so that was one of the ones I wanted to suggest for people. If you have stuff streaming out there, watch the first 2 seasons. And when I had COVID, I started watching that and went, I can't stop. So I kept watching episode after episode. And then I'd be like, I'm exhausted, and I'd fall asleep and like, oh, go back and watch it. So I do all that.
Yeah,
So
I would still be playing, and then you wake up and you're like 3 episodes later. Oh yeah, no,
Mm.
I've been that sick.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So
what else do you got for us?
have you seen Inside Number 9?
No, I have no idea what that is.
So it's on Amazon. I think there's 5 seasons. Each season only has like 6 episodes.
Oh wow, okay.
It's a British show, but it's like Black Mirror, but it came before Black Mirror, and we just found it. I know it's been out for a while, and I've heard people talk about it, but it was like, I can't believe. I think it's an Amazon Prime or HBO Max. It's on HBO Max. That's why I haven't seen it until now, because I just had HBO Max.
Right.
But it is, each episode is a different story. Some of them are horror based. Some of them are just weird. There's one episode that is, the whole episode is silent. They don't speak. There's no dialogue. But it's about 2 thieves who are trying to break into a house to steal a painting while the guy's still there and his mate's still there and his girlfriend is still there, and it's very like silent film comedy, but with like an action horror twist. Even the bad episodes, and there are a couple that are like, they're still well written. It's brought to you like there's 2 main guys. There's 2 main guys. I think they're the showrunners, but they're also in every single episode. I don't know their names because I'm not good with names, like when I first start watching it. But we've been watching it for the
Keith can tell us.
Oh, he could. Shmoo could tell me too if he was here. But they're really good. Some of them are very emotional. Some of them are just kooky. There's one episode that feels very much like Clue and Noises Off. But the color scheme is like the Budapest Hotel. It takes place in the hotel. I loved it because it's very much like, because those kind of shows remind me of the importance of being earnest. You know, that like the way they talk and stuff. And this one does. It's all takes place in a hallway on floor number 9. So inside number 9, everything is inside number 9. There's an episode about inside number 9. The apartments are always number 9. So everything has to do with number 9. There's also a really cool little Easter egg that we were reading about, and we want to go back and watch some of the earlier episodes. We found them throughout. There's this little bronze bunny statue that's in every single episode.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But it's really good. It's cerebral. It can get a little gory, but it's very much like Black Mirror.
Right.
But not necessarily tech driven. Like Black Mirror is tech driven.
Right.
It's not. But for them to come up with all of these ideas, write them out the way they're written, and play them out so beautifully, it's really, really good show. And if you haven't seen it, or I had never even heard of it, until Shmoo was saying something, and then I remember somebody told me like a long time ago, you would like this. And so we just started watching it, and I think we have like 3 episodes left before we're done with the season, or with the series. But it's really good. There's an episode where the shoe episode is very interesting. It's not my favorite, but it's very interesting. This man finds a shoe, just one shoe, on the side of the road right by his house, and he becomes obsessed with finding the other matching shoe. They're a pair. They're a pair. They're a pair. Months and months like go by. His wife, his marriage is suffering. All of this stuff. She hires an actor to come and pick up the shoe because it's his shoe. Like after the guy's on the radio and everything. And then you find out psychologically why he's doing this and what he has done when he finds out that his wife did this. It's like that. It's a very much like you never know exactly what's going to happen. And I love those shows.
Right. Me too. Because rarely am I surprised by things when I'm watching a show or a movie. Yeah. But I love it when I am.
This one has episodes where you're like, you see it coming right away.
Right.
But there are several episodes that I've watched where I was like, I did not see that coming. So.
All right. I need to check that out most definitely. Yeah. Well, one of the ones I know that you've barely started and I'm up to date on, and it's a new series on HBO Max, is Lovecraft County.
Yes.
So
I watched episode 1.
And episode 1 is probably episode 2 maybe my favorite. And they're kind of crazy and wacky, and there's some really kind of cool stuff. Yeah, and definitely not for kids.
No.
There's a lot of sex. There's a lot of gore. There's and so it's interesting. It's very cool because it's very African American focused, or as they would say in the show, Negro focused, and very interesting because right, exactly. And go ahead. The interesting thing, a lot of it has to do with what. It really shows what was happening at that time frame, because this was set in the 50s, I believe.
The
50s, yeah.
Maybe early 60s. I think it's late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And the whole point is, like, somebody asked me why it's called Lovecraft Country, because they're like, it's not really about Lovecraft. But Lovecraft, if you read some of his stuff and if you read some of his articles, he was very much that old, like, he came from that time period, and you can tell.
Right.
I love how they mix the truth of what was going on with fantasy that could be pulled out from a Lovecraft book.
Right.
Like it's not, but it could be.
And as you go along, there's more that you're like, oh, that's very Lovecraft. They're pulling from very deep roots of Lovecraft in parts. So yeah, I
figured they would go there just from the first episode. The first episode, though, feels like a movie.
Yeah, it does.
And it has a closure, and that's why I'm like, where are they going to go from here? Because on the description of the show, it says this African American man goes on a cross country adventure with his uncle and his girlfriend. First of all, they're not boyfriend and girlfriend in the first episode. That kind of gave that, like, they're going to have a love interest away. But what happens with the uncle in the first episode, I'm like, what's going to happen next. But because it totally closes it up. If they only did the one episode, like if it was like a standalone thing, I wouldn't be like, well, what happened next? Like it's not that thing. Like they give it to you in a nice little package. So I'm looking forward to watching the other ones. I have to be in the mood for this one though.
Yeah, right. No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
It was weird. And I'm not talking about, I like weird. But it was like a little confusing. Weird.
And they answer some questions you have from the first episode as they go along, but add a bunch more, and the weird factor gets turned up. It is wild. I'm really liking it. But man, it goes. They go very sci-fi at one point. They go extreme sci-fi at one point. So they leave the horror and go sci-fi, and you're like, what in the world just happened here? Well, and the one daughter of the uncle's daughter who writes and draws the comics that she gives them.
Yes.
Right. And about the whole idea that he's going on travels to be able to document what places are safe for people that are black to go. Yes. If you're on a road trip, what places are safe for you to stop and eat? What places are safe?
There were African American Negro guides to tell people where they could safely eat, stop, go to the bathroom.
Right.
There were, I know in the episode 1, they talk about sundown counties.
Yeah.
And there were sundown counties. Like they do mix this racially charged 1950s, 1960s South and Chicago, because it takes place. It starts in Chicago. They completely take those from what was going on then, and it's very poignant to what's going on today as well in our country. You know, like
it is.
We still have that tension and stuff. Not quite to the point of this. It's a different tension now, but it's from the same place.
It is.
No, I'm looking forward to watching it. It is one of those shows though that I can't just casually watch. Like I have some on my list that are just casual watches. You can't casually watch this.
No, and this is something you gotta take the time to be engrossed in. For me, it means I have to make sure my son is not going to be around to watch it.
Yeah.
Because if he walks in the room, you don't know what you're going to see here, and it gets intense. You get. Let me just tell you, we get witchcraft, you get ghosts, you get major sci-fi, you get time travel, you get, like, holy crud, they're just packing stuff in.
In the first
and
episode,
it blows my mind, all the things they hit.
Right. In the first episode, you got witchcraft,
you do.
Gene manipulation, into new creatures. You got werewolf-type creatures, like, they got bit by something.
You too.
Transforming. You get all of that, and I was just like, why is this just the first episode? What is coming next? So
I know. After the first episode, I was questioning. I'm like, well, I thought from the description this was going to be the whole thing. I thought we were going to go on like a six episodes talking about how they got here.
Boom.
Right, and boom, we're like, okay, but no, it gets even freakier. Trust me. You get into some really weird and interesting things. So, but I'm digging it. It's one of those. You're right. You got to be in the right mood for it. So
yeah. I have some on my list that are like, and I put them on my list because I did watch them. I'm going to throw them out there real fast. Sometimes you're home and you're wanting to binge watch something, or you just want to have something on TV that's lighthearted. You don't have to pay too much close attention to. And you don't have to worry about your kids or grandkids walking in while it's on. Right now, we're watching the Goldbergs, which when Lex is here, it's one of the things that's in the background. I love the Goldbergs. Shpoo had never seen it. I had seen the first 2 seasons, and now we're almost caught up. But Lex likes it. It's set in the 80s. We watched Man with a Plan on Netflix. That's the Joey. Basically, Matt LeBlanc's series that's on. I think it's on CBS, but it it's like great because it's in the background and we can just watch it and not have to worry about it.
Right.
We're doing a homeschool thing for drama. We're teaching her some drama, which is really cool. And we watched Lemony Snicket, the Netflix with Neil Patrick Harris, and she just got done with that. I love that show, so that was one of those things. So there are things out there. I know we've been talking about ones that aren't kid friendly, but there are ones that are that you can have in the background. You don't have to worry about your kids walking through, and those are some of the ones I've been enjoying. My number one,
and let me add on for those two things. So The Goldbergs is probably my favorite sitcom on right now. That show is so funny, and being a teen in the 80s, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've experienced this, or I've walked in homes like this, and you're like, oh my god, this is too funny, because it was so real at a lot of levels, but they just take such a funny twist on it.
I love the little ends of the episodes where you either see pictures of the real thing, or you see the real home videos, or they talk to the real Beverly Goldberg and everything like that. And I just love that, because it's these things, yes, they're not necessarily, that's why they always start off with, it was 1980 something, because he has said, Adam Goldberg has said he didn't want it to be pinpointed to this date, this date, this date, this date, because that's not how you remember your childhood. You just remember events in your childhood. And I love that, because they do mix it. I know we'll be watching it, and Shpoo is very much into like these movies came out this year and this year. And it'd be like, well, that shouldn't happen with that, because they're not the same year. And I'm like, it's not about that. But
this isn't about the details. This is about how it made you feel and your memories. Yeah. I can see that being a problem for him. No, so I love that show. The Lemony Snicket, I watched that with Logan as it came out on Netflix, and we both really enjoyed that. That was Neil Patrick Harris is great in that, and I loved how they wrapped it up. I mean, that it was a very fun show where the kids are actually the good guys, but nobody listens to them. The adults pay no attention to them, but yet somehow they always end up coming out of it okay. And Lemony Snicket's great. So those are great recommendations. I agree with that. So a couple of things we have not talked about. I know we were talking about The Boys. Have you watched Umbrella Academy?
No. I started watching it the first season with Dakota, and then he moved, and it's just I haven't got back to it.
So Umbrella Academy feels like the Boys and the Umbrella Academy have some similarities, because they take kind of a darker view on superheroes. The Boys is a lot more hardcore with it. It's a lot more, these are being organized by this. And the Umbrella Academy really is more of the X-Men version of things. It's kind of like what
they're all born at the same time, right? Isn't it 53 children were born
same day
from mothers who didn't even think they were pregnant, and then all of a sudden they're pregnant. And he picks in the Professor X person, I don't even know their names, but I know that the one who raises them in the academy picks them because they had special powers and stuff like that, and he trains them, and they become like little superheroes, right?
They do. Well, in the first season, especially when they're teenagers, he brings them in to like stop crimes happening and stuff like that. But then there's a lot of fallout that happens with that. And they're kind of mini celebrities, but then not really anymore. And kind of, they're resentful of their father figure who never wanted children, but yet he's raising them with this. The second season kind of explores more of that, which is really interesting. There is time travel in it. You've got one of the who hasn't aged because of time travel issues. He's like the oldest one of the whole group because he lived like 50 years in the future, and then came back, but yet his body's not aged. So it's interesting. He
he's like, yeah, all of them are like middle aged. Like,
Right.
it's basically like if child stars
Yes.
were superheroes, and that's why they were famous, and then now they're, you know, they're, washed up
Right.
child
Right.
stars, but they
So
still have the powers. So
the second season takes place in the 60s because of some time travel stuff, and very much talks about race issues and some other things. It does it very well.
Right.
So, but I suggest it. It's in this sort of vein as The Boys, without all the graphic language, without all the all soups are, that, but they, because they're trying to do the right thing overall. Basically, what if your father had really messed you up psychologically? He referred to them as numbers rather than with a name.
Right. So that's why
You get all that stuff. So
yeah, I know the one is
right.
known as number 5. I knew that, and
It's 5, right, and that's why. So, but it's worth checking out. So, since we talked about one, I figured we needed to talk about the other. So, if people watching are interested in kind of an off-kilter superhero thing, very much X-Men, sort of like, there's a famous X-Men issue that Kitty Pryde calls out Professor X for being a jerk, and basically, in fact, the title of it is Professor X is a jerk, and with big exclamation points. He was, but he's not as big of a jerk as the father in this. So
okay, well, I don't know. Professor X does some messed up things in the comics, like
yes, I know. Trust me.
He manipulates his students a lot. I got theories on that. Like but
anyway,
let's see, what other ones do I have on my list? Unsolved Mysteries came out with a new season. I love a good unsolved mystery. The only thing I miss is a host. Season 1 and season 2 don't have the host. I know Robert Stack, can't. I wish they would have had somebody be the host.
Right.
It feels more like a documentary rather than Unsolved Mysteries. Plus, it doesn't go as quick as Unsolved Mysteries used to. Like we would have an hour-long episode, but we'd have 3 to 4 mysteries. This is an hour for each one. The mysteries are really interesting though, and they get you thinking and stuff and all of that. It's just I wish they were condensed a little bit and they had a host to kind of get them going and stuff.
Right.
But I've watched
because that was kind of a scary voice talking about what all is unsolved. You're like, oh, okay, I don't know. That's kind of frightening.
I was like, I know they couldn't get him, and because he passed. But I was like, they could have put somebody like John Walsh on there from America's Most Wanted. Considering John Walsh worked with Unsolved Mysteries and Robert Stack a lot.
Right.
John Walsh, of course, getting into what he did because of what happened to his son Adam, which was a huge mystery for the longest time. I feel like they could have got somebody like that to host it, but they didn't. There's no host, and that kind of it's good, but it's not as good as the old ones.
Sure. Yeah, I get that.
Something that is good that I binge watched. It came to Netflix this summer, and I had already seen all of the episodes. Shpoo had not, and he hates anime, or he always tells me how much he hates anime. But I have gotten him to watch some things, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yep.
The first one with Aang. We are watching Korra, where he's just not as hooked. But he loved it. He was like talking about how beautiful it was. Like the art is very beautiful in it. If you have not watched Avatar, it is totally kid friendly. It has a great message. It has messages of prejudice and fighting for the good and standing up for what you think is right, even when you're raised to hate. It has redemption. It has love. It has friendship. It has humor. It has really cute animals because they have their animals are like 2 animals put together. Like they have duck turtles.
Yep. Right.
The duck turtles are my favorite. They're so funny. But yeah, so we binge watched that too. I love that.
That's a good one.
Iroh is my favorite. Yeah.
So
what other ones?
All right. Well, just a few that were on my list. We don't have to dive in deep. Watchmen over on HBO Max is really interesting. Also very focused on race, but and really focuses at the beginning on the slaughter in Oklahoma of where, and I forget the name of the town where basically it was a thriving community for the African American community, and basically these racist jerks come in and basically demolish it, kill everybody there.
The June 19th
What?
is the June. Is it the
Yeah,
June?
yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So but it's all tied together, which is fun, really interesting. But yeah, it's Watchmen's interesting. I enjoyed it. If you like the comic book, or if you've liked the movie that came out several years ago, it's kind of a continuation. It's kind of what happens years later.
Okay.
So that's really good. Doom Patrol is also a DC product on HBO Max. It is not kid friendly. It's not a kid show at all. It's very quirky, which is exactly what the comic book was.
Right.
Keith loves it. Keith thinks it's great. I watch it and I'm like, okay, I like it, but I don't love it. I'm not passionate about it, but I'm enjoying it. So, and so those are there. Wanted to mention Harley Quinn. Yeah, the Harley Quinn animated series, which again is not kid friendly, but it's hysterical.
It is so funny. And the characters, I mean, seriously, they picked the most obscure Batman villains to have in this show. It's wonderful. The side characters are great. I'm still watching it. I haven't caught up to it. Professor's way ahead of me. But I love it so far. And the relationship between Poison Ivy and Harley is so fun.
Yeah.
It's very much like Harley realizing that she's not a sidekick. So far.
Right.
That's I'm not a sidekick. Which, to be honest, she started as a sidekick, but if you go to any convention, if you go Halloween trick-or-treating or whatever, she's not anymore. You see way more Harleys than any other Batman character. I'm glad that they finally they took her and made her own villain.
Right.
But
right.
did it in a fun way.
It really kind of made her more to an anti-hero. She really isn't fully bad anymore. Tries to be sometimes. It especially in this series, it really is interesting how they play her. So
right, she really wants to be bad.
Right, she does. Oh yeah, she's not a good guy, but she's not fully bad. Clayface, by the way, we talked about this before. Clayface is the best character. He's just hysterical because you've got this guy that can transform into anything, look like anything, and he wants to be in the theater, and he wants his performance to be accepted.
Oh my gosh, the one where he plays the mailman. Oh my
gosh,
hilarious! What is my motivation? Deliver the mail. But what is his deliver the mail? It's so funny.
Have you gotten the episode where they go to college? College? Yeah. Okay. Because his character in there is even better than the mailman.
Oh my God. I think the last episode, I haven't got very far. Funny. So yeah. The Harley in her mind one. The one where she's trapped in her own mind, that was very good. That was really well done. With all the little Harleys running around and why she is who she is and all of that. It was really, really well done. And I love how they allowed her psychologically to rewrite her story. That whole episode was about her, thinking that the Joker had pushed her into the acid.
Right.
The Joker had he made me who I am, and that's why pudding, that sort of thing. And she gets to go back after going through a maze of her own mind, and she gets to go back and she sees what really happened, but she allows herself to change it.
Right.
and to change her, who she thinks she is. And that was such a powerful episode, even though, you know, it's a cartoon that's vulgar and not kid friendly and stuff. That episode was really, really well done. Oh, it's so vulgar. It's,
Yeah.
it's like,
well, the reason that what's his name, Doctor Mind, not Doctor Mind, what?
I can't
Calling Wonder Woman, yeah. Calling Wonder Woman the word, you know, and then everybody's like, "Oh, well, we can't be." Even the Legion of Doom, we can't be associated with you.
It's so funny because even the villains are like, "Dude, you said the C word. Like you called Wonder Woman the C word." I thought that was hilarious. That just tells you how bad that was.
Oh my gosh!
It's so funny because we were watching it. We were watching it, and Lex was in bed. We thought she was asleep, and she gets up and she's like, "Oh, you're watching a Harley Quinn," and we're like, "Nope."
Yep, nope.
No.
Not for you. Yeah.
No.
So it's a funny show. It's interesting because it really, you almost get to feel everything is kind of done from Harley's twisted view on life. So how Batman is very different. How Commissioner Gordon is, by the way, and
how everybody is, but to be fair, it shows you that perspective is everything. Like each person's perspective is truth. And so to Harley, these are her truths. I love it when they talk about, you know, her being like the only person that reached out to Poison Ivy before she was Harley Quinn. You know, and that sort of thing. And that she has this dual personality, but she's still a brilliant doctor inside there. I love that they let her do that, because so many times they have her, or any female character who's a sidekick or, you know, a side character, they have them be ditzy. Yeah. Or even if they're brilliant, for some reason they don't notice it's Superman with glasses. Like they don't see themselves in a way that makes that possible. And I love that how they've changed that up in this. So no, I like it. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, it's a funny one. So wanted to talk about some things coming up. Yes. And maybe even some things that I want to stream. I'm not streaming yet. But so one of the things coming up very soon to Netflix will be Stranger Things. Yes. Return for season 4. Have you watched Stranger Things? Or are you all caught up with that?
I've seen all the seasons. I mean, I've seen them when they came out. I haven't watched them.
Right. I'm same way here. I've in fact, I'm thinking if I can convince him to do it. Now, my challenge with my 11-year-old is to convince him that he actually wants to sit with me and watch something. But I think he's now at the age that he can handle, because for those who don't know what it is, it's basically a Stephen King and Steven Spielberg 80s movie smashed together and then told in seasons. And it's phenomenally well written. The kids are the main heroes. The actors are great actors. And I love the show. It's very 80s, but it's also very kid focused and kid driven, while being a horror show, which, you know, horror is not my favorite, but I love this.
Well, it's a horror show, but it's a horror sci-fi.
It is. Like, it is. Which
it's very much like The Watchers. Do you remember The Watchers with the dog and the creature? And yeah, so it's very much like The Watchers, another dimension and all this stuff. No, Molly Brown, she's amazing, like in it.
Yes, she is.
I think this is a great show. I am looking forward to it as well. So. When does it come on? Do they have a date yet?
It's supposed to be sometime around Thanksgiving. Yeah. Now, has that been delayed with COVID? I don't know. I've not heard. But initially, it was supposed to come in around Thanksgiving, because every season has gone around some sort of holiday. The first season was Christmas. I forget what the second season was. Third season was 4th of July. So you've got that where it kind of evolves around it. So it's Anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. It's my favorite show on, period. So anything streaming, I just really get into that. So, but I'm excited because I'm thinking my son's at the age I can show this to him. Even though it's gross, he can still handle it. He's no longer going to be scared.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not too
And
much.
I think he'll like the kids in it. Now, I'm hoping to actually expose him some of the 80s music in it too, because the soundtracks are phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah.
So there's that. Another thing that I'm real excited about, WandaVision is supposed to be coming out later this year. Well, we don't have long. We've heard it's not November, so looks like it's going to be December.
So we just watched something that says that they like people with scoops. They're thinking it's going to come out right after Mandalorian ends, because that's how Disney Plus does it, so that they can keep you streaming. Mandalorian's supposed to end around Christmas. So we're thinking WandaVision will come out probably like maybe even Christmas Day falls on a Friday. That's when they release new movies on Disney Plus. So it might come out on the Friday, Christmas Day. If not,
Merry Christmas.
If not, it's going to be right there. They might do it like they did Mandalorian last year, which is where they had the 2 episodes in the 1 week so that they could release the other one.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm thinking probably around Christmas. I'm thinking actually on Christmas is what my gut tells me, which would be smart.
I'm with you. It would be, because you got people home. Right. And especially with COVID, people probably aren't going as far. And this gives you a chance to sit down as a family and watch something. For those that don't know, this is Wanda the Scarlet Witch and Vision from Avengers. Even though Vision's dead, it's going to bring them in, and it's kind of timey-wimey and different dimensions.
So the way that it looks like it's going to go, it's going to be like their life together before, because they did live together in between the movies, the time periods, or it's somehow in her mind she manipulates time. Well, she has the power. Scarlet Witch was
she's very powerful mutants. In the comic book, she actually makes her own reality after some very bad things happen. And so I think it's really going to be kind of a take on that. But then, and supposedly we're going to see Doctor Strange. And it's going to play into the Doctor Strange movie because of the whole multiverse thing. We're going to see some other magical characters show up in this. And it should be really interesting. I'm really excited for it. I'm excited to get the MCU going.
The trailer looks fun. Like, it looks like, what if the Scarlet Witch and Vision were in the suburbs?
Right.
Like they're just a married couple in the suburbs kind of thing, which I think is going to be fun. I love the Scarlet Witch.
It gives you a Bewitched feel.
Yes. No, exactly. I love the picture of him trick-or-treating.
And dressed up as himself.
Yes, like that was so beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that as well. One that's coming out, and I know it's coming out. I think this is going to be the last season for it, because it's Netflix. But that's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I'm looking forward to that.
I think they announced that with the trailer that it was the last season. So yes, and that's something I've actually been streaming. I'm actually on season 3 now. So I've been, and it's one of those that, again, one of those I have to be in the right mood for, because I do have to focus on it. There's a lot that goes on. I can't casually watch it, but yeah, I've been enjoying it, by the way. So
and it's not for younger children, but I think that if you have a teenager or like 12 or something, it's not going, like, as long as they don't get scared by things as easily, it's not something that's totally inappropriate. Like they have makeout scenes and stuff like that, but it's not like to the point that you can't watch it. But it does have satanic stuff in it. It talks about the devil. It talks about witchcraft in a more, it's not your Sabrina the Teenage Witch with Melissa Joan Hart. It's not that at all. It's very much a darker take. Yeah, it's very much a darker take, but with some characters that you love. I love this show. Like, you know that. I completely love the show. I actually think Kieran is like a really amazing little actress. Like, And when I
She
say that,
is.
because I watched her grow up on Mad Men, but she's so amazing. And the show has such depth and such like truth, and yet not. And it's weird, but it's very weird. And I love weird shows. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next season of it. So.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm going to be caught up with that soon. And
Okay.
the whole reason I watched it was because you recommended this to me at a previous episode like this. So I've taken you up on it, and I've watched it, and have been enjoying it. It is kind of, you have to get past the whole thing of, especially if your religious Christian views are kind of really dumped on its head with this, and even to the praise Satan and basically using heaven as a curse word instead of hell, and so it takes you back for a little bit if you're coming from that viewpoint. So just know that that's there, and if you can get past that, it's a lot of fun.
And that's the thing. It's like it doesn't take, even though it's about this, it really does not take itself too seriously.
Right? No, it doesn't.
It has comedy relief in it, but not in the way that you think. And it really doesn't. It's just such a mind meld when you watch like the old Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and when you watch this, I think it's going to be the same thing. I do love that this takes place in that they mention Riverdale. They mention they mention that sort of thing. Also, I love the look of Kieran. Like, that is the Sabrina that I remember from comics.
Right.
She has that look down completely.
She does.
Ross as Harvey is wonderful. I've loved him since, he was such a cute kid on Austin and Ally on Disney. He's a Disney kid, and he grew up to be Harvey. It's just really good. And it follows a teenager who's just trying to make the right decisions, even though she's raised to where you think she would make the wrong decisions. Like, it breaks your preconceptions of what you think that these people who are Hail Satan, type of people are. And I love shows that make you think like outside of the box. So
right. I'm with you, and it's a very good show. It's a lot of fun.
If you are a Christian, you're offended by the show, I understand that too. So I'm not gonna be like, no, you should watch it. Just know that it does have things that would probably offend you if that's your belief. So
it can be very blasphemous, but take it for what it is, and also take it as a. If you take it and take a look at church and church history, and you just basically replace the Christian church with what this church is, you can kind of see how it parallels along in some of the things it's trying to say. So again, don't
there's corruption in everything. There's corruption in everything, and you can find goodness in everything as well. And the thing I love about this show is it talks about Lucifer being a fallen angel, which is something that people don't talk about, and that is in the Bible.
It is.
So it talks about that sort of thing. It talks about the whole aspect of even though he is evil, he was once good, and that means that everything has that goodness in them, or has had that goodness in them, and they touch base on that a lot. Like the people that you start off hating in the show, you end up liking. And they show their goodness and stuff. So,
So it's an interesting show. So I agree. That's something that I'm looking forward to. And I know you're a much bigger anime fan than I am, and that's just because I don't have a lot of exposure to it. But the show that I'm crazy about as in anime, Ruby or RWBY, it's coming out for another season. I'm getting ready to hit. Next month? No, I'm sorry. I think it's November 7th. So it's coming soon. And there's a way to stream it. You have to stream it at this point from oh gosh, what's the name of the group doing it. You have to go through their website though. What I found last year was you can buy a service, or you can wait a week and watch that episode the next week for free. So I'm cheap. I'm going to do that. So, but it's a show that I really got into, and I love seeing the cosplayers. If you haven't seen it, YouTube had like the first 5 seasons on YouTube for free that you can go watch. It is well worth it. The episodes are about 20, 25 minutes long, and it starts off and you're thinking, okay, this is a Harry Potter-esque kind of a thing. And it does that for a little while, and then it takes it and spins it in a whole different direction you don't see coming. And but it's great. The characters are awesome. It's beautifully drawn, and it's my favorite anime. I just really dig it. So I'm excited for that. So
yeah. Well, Professor, we're at 1 hour and 25 minutes.
I know.
Just us.
I didn't mean for us to go this long.
No. But I'm gonna have to get off here tonight.
Me too.
Before we do, let's say some highs and some like shout outs to some of our friends. First, we're gonna shout out to Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield. Now, Keith and Gary are not always kid friendly, but they do have amazing scoops, and they are hilarious. So if you are in for some more adult talk and your little ones aren't around, or you don't have little ones, go check them out for sure. Be sure to check them out on YouTube and Facebook. Give them a like, hit that subscribe button, let them know that you like what they're doing. We have the Scallywag himself, Shpoo, over at Scallywag Productions on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And he is going to be doing some videos. Our computer is broke down right now and is in the shop. We got a new one, and it's in the shop, though. And so hopefully he'll get some new content up. But go give him a like, subscribe. Let him know what you'd like to see him do, because he's really wanting to do some more videos. And then we have a Tim and Josh over at Nerd Informants, and they're on YouTube and Facebook. They are all kinds of nerdy and all kinds of fun. And be sure to go give them a like and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to check us out. And we have a new staff writer, Morgan. So check us out on GeekyKOOL.com. That's our own website over there. But you also can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And be sure to give us a like, hit that subscribe button. And if you like what we're doing, be sure to share it with your friends and family. Let them know. Because we like that.
We do. So
anything else, Professor?
I was just going to say, when you go over to see these our other friends, make sure to tell them we sent you. And and then maybe they'll be sending people our way. No, but no, tell them we said hi. So, I don't know what that's all about, because I've got you, so I don't know what's going on, because I've seen these guys. All these guys are guys, and none of them hold a candle to you. So I don't know.
Josh has Tim, and Tim is adorable. And Gary
Tim is not as adorable as you.
Gary and Keith have all the scoops, and when Keith laughs and he has that huge smile, totally cute. And then there's Shpoo, and Shpoo is just, well, I'm his girlfriend, so I'm kind of a little biased on him, but he's a bald-headed fun guy. But we're trying here, Professor. We're trying.
I know.
Shpoo and I are actually doing another series that we're going to be starting to film on tomorrow, I think, called A Series of Enigmatic Events. And we're going to talk about all kinds of creepy things and unsolved mysteries and just any cryptics and stuff like that. So that's hopefully going to be on his channel, and maybe we'll put it on GeekyKOOL. I figure we will.
Yeah, definitely should.
We'll put that on our GeekyKOOL page as well, and that should probably happen in the next couple of weeks after all the editing and stuff. So
very good. That's exciting. He will. So that
You know what? It's okay. I'm a GeekyKOOL girl first. Okay. So
I appreciate that. I stole you away before he could do it. So there you go.
You did. Well, guys, we will see you next week. be sure to stay cool, okay? And geeky.
Yep. Yeah. Stay geeky and stay cool. Whatever you
I
do.
knew you'd say it like
All right. We'll see you guys later.